Good afternoon. So today I would like to start talking about a verse that is, it's in the Blue Prayer Book on page 6. It's at the end of some verses that are recited prior to teachings. There's the homage to Shakyamuni Buddha and so on. And then towards the end of that series of prayers, there's a verse that says, a star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. So I first came across this verse many years ago because it's part of the Posada, Sojong practice in the Tibetan tradition. This is a bi-monthly ceremony for monks and nuns to confess and renew their vows. So there's a bunch of extra prayers and so on that are recited during that ceremony, and this is one of them. And I was always sort of intrigued by this verse, but it was only many years later that I found out where it comes from. It's in the Vajra Sutra, also sometimes translated as the Diamond Sutra. And this sutra is one of the Perfection of Wisdom sutras that explains emptiness. So it was quite wonderful to find out that this verse was actually spoken by the Buddha. These are the words of the Buddha. And so the Perfection of Wisdom sutras and what they teach is actually very difficult. It's probably the most difficult topic in Buddhism, the topic of emptiness, the true nature of things, which is there around us all the time, but we don't see it because of our delusions, basically, our afflictive emotions, ignorance, and so forth. So these sort of cover our mind and prevent us from seeing the true nature of things. So these teachings of the Buddha, Perfection of Wisdom Sutra teachings, are to help us free our minds from ignorance and disturbing emotions so that we can see the true nature of things. And then in 2001, I was in Deer Park over in Madison, Wisconsin, where Geshe Zopa lived. And I was attending teachings of Geshe Zopa that were given in the summertime. And Yangtze Rinpoche, who's now living in Portland, was still living in Deer Park at that time. And one day he gave a teaching on this verse. So I was really happy to finally get some instructions on this verse. So I thought to share this with you, not all at once because it's too much, but little by little, starting today and then in subsequent BBCs. So in this verse, there are 9 similes mentioned, and the Buddha is saying, we should see conditioned things in these ways. So conditioned things are things that arise from causes and conditions, are dependent on causes and conditions, and they're also impermanent things. So impermanent things and conditioned things are synonymous. And this is just about everything we experience in our life. Our bodies, our minds, the bodies and minds of others, all the material things in the world around us, buildings, houses, cars, all the things in nature, trees, mountains, lakes, the sky, sun, moon, star, everything. All of these things are conditioned things. They're all arising from causes and conditions and impermanent, changing every moment. So the Buddha mentioned these 9 ways to look at conditioned things. Okay, so the first of the similes is a star or stars, we could say. So how does that relate to conditioned things? So Yangtze Rinpoche explained it in this way. He said, stars are always in the sky, but sometimes we can't see them. For example, when the sky is obscured by clouds or fog. But when the sky becomes clear, we can see the stars. This example can be used to illustrate the difference between seeing the superficial conventional level of things and seeing the deeper ultimate level of things. When you have a direct perception of emptiness without any obscuring factors intervening, you can see the actual nature of things, just as you see the stars in the sky. So that way of explaining it seems to equate the stars to the true nature of things, the emptiness of things, the actual way that things exist, which is actually there all the time, but we're not able to see it because our mind is covered by clouds of ignorance and disturbing emotions and wrong thoughts and so forth. So when those clouds are cleared away by the wisdom, seeing the true nature of things, then we'll be able to see the true nature of things, just as we can see the stars when the clouds go away. So that's one way of explaining this analogy. But there's another way. There's a book called Buddhist Wisdom Books by Edward Conze. He was quite a scholar who translated a lot of sutras, especially Perfection of Wisdom sutras. And so this little book contains the Vajra Sutra as well as the Heart Sutra, plus some commentary to it. And so for stars, he actually has 4 different ways of explaining them. I won't go into all of them, but I'll mention 2 that I found really interesting. And these commentaries these explanations are based on Indian commentaries, although he doesn't say which ones. Okay, so the way he explains stars is stars can only be seen when there's no sun. Because actually, stars are always there in the sky, even during the daytime. When the sun goes down, it starts to get dark, we look up in the sky and we say, oh, the stars are coming out. Almost like they weren't there before and suddenly they're there. But they're there all the time. But because of the brightness of the sun, we're not able to see them. As the stars are no longer visible when the sun comes to shine, so also the things of the world are seen only in the darkness of ignorance and are no longer noticed when the normal mental reactions to them come to a stop after the true non-dual cognition of the Absolute has taken place. So what this is talking about is the wisdom of emptiness, especially the direct wisdom of emptiness. So it's said that when a person, a meditator, has realized emptiness directly, with direct perception, then in that state of mind, in that meditative state of mind, all conventional things disappear. Even one's own body, one's mind, everything and everyone around you, all of these things just vanish. And the only thing appearing to the mind is emptiness, the emptiness of true existence of all things. So this way of explaining it is saying that the direct realization of emptiness is like the sun. With the brightness of the sun, the stars disappear. So the stars here represent conventional things, conventional truths, conditioned things. All conditioned things are conventional truths. So they disappear with the brightness of the wisdom realizing emptiness, and they only appear when our mind is in a dark state, the darkness of ignorance and confusion. But we have to be careful about that, because just because things disappear when we directly realize emptiness doesn't mean they don't exist. Now, some people may think that, but that isn't the case. They do exist, but the problem is that the way we normally see things, the reality is that they're empty of inherent existence. Inherent existence is a sort of false mode of existence that our mind projects onto things. We see things as if they are independent, solid, real, existing from their own side. So that mode of existence is actually false. That's the false mode of existence. But we're so habituated to seeing things in that way. We're like addicted to seeing things in that way. So when we realize emptiness, it sort of peels away that false mode of existence. But because that's what we have always believed in, then even the conventional way of existing of things also disappears because we've never learned to distinguish those two. So when the false mode of existence disappears, even the conventional way of existing of things also disappears. That's how Khyentse Jumpa Chekchok explained it. So that's the reason why everything disappears when you realize emptiness. And then when you come out of your meditation on emptiness, things appear again. But you don't see them in the same way you did before. You see them as a bit more illusory, as a bit more, like a dream, like an illusion. So that's another way of understanding stars. I mean, this is talking about something incredibly profound, but still, it's good to hear about it and get some imprints in our mind. And then he mentioned one more way of understanding how stars are an analogy to conditioned things. Stars are distant and unreachable. One cannot get to them. They are unattainable, as all dharmas are. Dharmas here meaning phenomena. One cannot lay hands on them, cannot possess them. So the way I think of that is, stars are very, very far away. I don't think it's possible for even to send a spaceship to the stars. They're so far away. So they're there and they're bright and they're beautiful, but we can't really get at them. We can't really reach them and grasp them. So in a similar way, ordinary phenomena, they appear very real and solid, but when we use the analytical wisdom that's, trying to understand emptiness, what we do is we look into phenomena and we try to find them. What exactly is the I or my body or the book or whatever it is we're analyzing? We look into it to try to find its real nature. And what we find is it's not findable. We can't find it. There's nothing there that we can reach and touch and grasp at. Because that's the real nature of things, that they're empty of such a real, solid, findable, graspable phenomena. So that all disappears. So that's another way that one could understand how stars and conditioned things are similar. So I think that you could take your pick of these, whichever one you find most appealing, most helpful. And you could also maybe even come up with your own way of relating stars to conditioned things. Because the real point is to understand that the way things normally appear to us is not the way they really exist. We tend to see things in a mistaken way, and as long as we keep buying into this mistaken way of seeing things, then we react with attachment, with aversion, with other kinds of disturbing emotions, and then create karma and just prolong or perpetuate our existence in a state of confusion and unsatisfactoriness and suffering, which we call samsara. So it's important to have doubt about the way things normally appear to us, question them, and try to come to see their true nature. Venerable Tarpa wants to ask a question.
With the last analogy that you gave, is it possible, though, is it correct to say that you do find emptiness? You don't find the inherently existent object, but you do find emptiness. Is that correct to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
You find emptiness, but when you're doing this kind of analysis, you're looking for like an I, or you're looking for a book. You don't find that, but you do find the emptiness of an inherently existing or truly existing I or book or whatever. Yeah, so it's not that you find nothingness. Some people think emptiness means nothingness, non-existence, and that's misunderstanding.
And I had was about I guess it's the refrain maybe, see conditioned things as such. And when you first said that, I realized that maybe it was the first simile. That phrase, see conditioned things as such, I'm wondering maybe if you could just think about this as you go through these. It seems like that phrase might morph depending on which simile, because at first when you were saying it, if you see conditioned things as such, I was thinking we're going to see conditioned things. What you're, I would have to say it as suchness, seeing that impermanent things have a permanent aspect to them or something. You know, it seemed like almost contradictory to me at first, the first analogy, because you were actually finding something that was permanent in a conditioned phenomena. You were finding emptiness, which is a permanent phenomena, within conditioned things. I'm not sure if that's making sense.
Well, I guess my understanding is Buddha is saying that, the conditioned things, the things we normally see, although they appear in one way, their real nature, their reality is something else. And we need to look beyond the superficial appearance of things and come to see their true nature, which is emptiness of inherent existence. So not just buy into or believe in the appearance of things, because some of the other analogies are like an illusion or like a bubble. So things appear much more real and solid than they really are. So we need to go into them, analyze them to discover their real
nature. That helps
nature.
me to understand that phrase better.
I mean, that's how I understand it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Because at first I was thinking, when I hear, if I didn't know anything about this topic and I heard see conditioned things as such, I would think, well, conditioned things are impermanent. So now as such is going to refer to something that's also impermanent.
No, I think he's saying see conditioned things like these different similes, a star, an illusion, and so on and so forth. See them like that. That's how I understand it. Okay. Thank you.